Hello there, I'm Colleen MacDonald, and welcome to Crypto Convergence. Go ahead and like and subscribe so that you can be pinged the next time that we have a video. So in previous episodes of this podcast, we talked about the IOTEX blockchain, and it provided us an in-depth example of what future users might be able to expect from that particular protocol. And later we discussed the characteristics of blockchain ecosystems to include blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And in our last episode, we talked about consensus mechanisms that are associated with both of those protocols. And so now that we have done all of that, we can move on to characteristic number 3 of blockchain protocols and ecosystems: smart contracts. What the heck is a smart contract and where did it come from? Well, we actually have Nick Szabo to thank. In 1994, he came out with a paper, Smart Contracts. And in 1996, he updated that paper called Smart Contracts: Building Blocks for Digital Markets. He is a computer scientist and cryptographer, and he has paved the way. According to Mr. Szabo, a smart contract is a computerized transaction protocol that executes the terms of a contract. The general objectives of smart contract design are to satisfy common contractual conditions, such as the payment terms, liens, confidentiality, and even enforcement, minimizing exceptions, both malicious and accidental, to reduce the need for trusted intermediaries between parties. This idea is meant to lower fraud losses or arbitration, enforcement costs, and other transaction costs that are associated with dealing in business together, whether online or in real life. So according to Nick Szabo, these contracts are also called digital bearer certificates, or tokens, right? And these implement the standard rights that are transferable regardless of the identity of a third party or the identity of the holder. And so each kind of contract or denomination of a coin, right, corresponds to some digital signature, just like a stock certificate or Federal Reserve notes that have your little serial number on the bill. So this digital signature, this digital serial number, it provides assurances that the certificate that you're buying or purchasing is indeed just a particular kind of contract with the bearer and the associated serial number to ensure that the same certificate is not redeemed more than one time. Are you with me? Maybe you're not. So let's use some examples of things that I've already mentioned, right? Let's use the Federal Reserve notes, or FRNs, and then we can compare them to smart contracts to get an idea of what's actually happening here. So the Federal Reserve notes, these are the physical dollars, right? Or the digital numbers that seem meaningless in your bank account and dwindle frequently. These are backed and supported in the supply, not supported in the supply, controlled by supply by the Federal Reserve, okay? And so they rely on the full faith and credibility of the United States government. America. I'm sorry if you don't think that's funny. You're probably a loser. Love you. Okay, so smart contracts, right? These are the decentralized version of your banknotes. They're not really controlled by any central authority. So they're digital, they're programmable, they're immutable, and all of the rules or the terms can be programmed straight into the contract. And then they will self-execute whenever the parameters of that contract are met. Okay, so here's this sweet little graphic that I created for this particular comparison between the FRNs and the smart contracts. And we can also see that there are some similarities here, as in they facilitate transactions, they represent a value of exchange, and they rely on some trust in the system itself. So the authenticity of each of the FRNs is verified through things like watermarks, or those like security bands, the little threads that are in there, and those yellow markers that everybody sees at the grocery store.
Here. Okay, so now you're gonna see what it looks like if that bill is fake. Okay, you guys seeing it's the same marker, but this marks black. And then like I showed you guys earlier, it says right there, black is fake, and then gold is real.
And the FRNs are transferred by handing them to each other, right? It's cash. So the enforcement of these, the FRNs, is done by the federal government, the FBI in particular. So don't go like ripping those things apart or burning them or anything like that. The Federal Reserve doesn't like that kind of deflation. They only like other kinds of deflation. Smart contracts have all of these same factors, except the issuance is that digital token that we talked about before. It is created on the blockchain that the smart contract is interacting with. And the cryptocurrency that you're buying on an exchange is representative of that token that represents the digital bearer certificate. Okay, so the verification of these is done through cryptographic proofs instead of that yellow marker. This is much like the consensus mechanisms that we talked about in the previous video, that where you're either validating the transaction on Ethereum or you're mining the transaction like on Bitcoin. They are aiming to solve that double spend problem. They want to make sure that the hash of one particular certificate isn't the same as another hash for that same certificate, okay? And so one will give you a token and the other will give you a currency to be representative of the token, of the digital bearer certificate. And so there are all different kinds of smart contracts. There are governance contracts, multi-signature contracts, escrow contracts, payment contracts. In the same way that you have an infinite amount of transactions or contracts in the real world, you also have a near infinite amount of contracts in the digital world. Okay, but most of these contracts, they have a pre-existing structure that has been figured out over a few years. Likely the only one that you really need to care about for the beginners, interaction with these systems is the payment contract. And there you have it. That is the down and dirty on smart contracts for a beginner. Keep in mind, smart contracts they interact in different ways on different blockchains. They're written in different types of code, and their initial templates are found in different places. So when you're interacting with a smart contract, you need to be sure to do your own research. I cannot stress that enough. If you know somebody who does any smart contract development, ask them to audit the contract for you before you decide to purchase into it or buy into it or govern by it, because there are various different types of attacking points that could happen as a result of contracts. We hear stories about those kinds of things all of the time. So just make sure that you're either with some kind of trusted centralized exchange if you're trying to buy cryptocurrency, like something like Coinbase or something like that. And then if you're interacting with anything that's new, like a meme coin or an NFT, or even governance that requires some kind of stake, just make sure that you do your own research. Look online, Google it, and do your own research, okay? And as always, I appreciate you so much for stopping by. Please leave a comment in the comment section if you think that I missed anything or if you have any additional questions. Thank you so much. We will see you next time.